Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So last week we opened the session with talking about ways that couples can maximize this time in lockdown or quarantine to really grow, restore themselves, build, and not find this as, you know, something daunting to go through because you haven't had this much time together.
Yeah.
So we're going to be continuing today, if my phone will just behave. We're going to be continuing with similar topics, unpacking relationships. And my very first question to you this evening is, what does a healthy relationship look like?
A health relationship. I'll start with a story because I think that different people somehow have a different view. I know there are common grounds or points which I will share, but I'll give a story because the world we live in and how we look at the world is a product of our perception, how we view the world, and our perception also is a combination of our state,
yes,
and what and what has happened to us and what has informed who we are. So if you ask the question that what does a healthy relationship look like, if I'm coming from a background where I've nursed different ideologies about relationships, even if you give me a good relationship, I'm not going to read into that relationship and determine if it's good, because my good is different to yours. I'll give an example. There was a story I came across. A guy got married, and they had a beautiful wedding, and they were married. But the guy wondered if their relationship is really good. Why? Because they never had fights, they never had arguments. You know, they would have normal conversation, trying to iron things, but they were not intense. They generally had a peaceful relationship. It bothered him because he believed that there has to be drama in the relationship. There has to be some fights in the relationship for it to be proven that it's a good relationship and also that there is love.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that relationship never lasted because the wife wondered why all of a sudden this guy is coming up with all manner of fights. But in his mind and his way of life, he thought a good relationship needs to have fights. So the relationship ended and they divorced. And now he regrets that he has been trying, to try and see if they can resolve the things, but the wife had moved on. So that's another example. Sometimes we can have something that is good before us, but because maybe we have nursed wrong ideas and ideologies about what good is to us, we find that we fail to appreciate what is before us because we think it's not good enough because our good is linked to some of the beliefs. In some cultures, they say maybe now it's not happening, but way back, some cultures believe that a good relationship is where even your husband needs to beat you. So if the husband is not beating you, there's something is wrong in the relationship. How come he's not fighting? How come he's not is being so hard on me? Something is wrong. Maybe he's cheating. You see, so a good relationship varies depending on the state of the individuals. However, on those who are on health grounds and just looking forward to have an understanding of what a good relationship is,
a healthy
relationship is, I think that a healthy relationship is where there's good communication, and you have found ways to resolve conflict without really killing each other. Health and good communication, and you are able to resolve conflict and be able to remain together. I think that's a good relationship. A healthy relationship is one where there's mutual respect. I know in African context, men demand respect the most. They say, women should respect men. Yes. I believe that everybody deserves to be respected. Every human being has the right to be respected. Yes. And I think that in a healthy relationship, mutual respect is very, very important, because if you don't respect one another, then what are you? And it shows that relationship is not healthy. I also think that a healthy relationship also is one where you support one another. And I'm also saying this because in our context, sometimes we're coming from different backgrounds, and I think from an African man, where women are taught to support men. Yes. So you get into a marriage, and you are taught and you are coached to support your man. And the man gets into the relationship, he has this expectation that the wife exists only to support. When the wife wants to pursue certain things, if the husband feels insecure about those pursuits, then the wife is not going to pursue those things. A relationship of that sort is not going to last because it's not a healthy relationship. A good relationship is one where individuals genuinely support one another. And in supporting one another could be dreams. And in supporting means, if, for instance, you want to go to school, I'm giving an example, and it means that while you are at school, I'll have to take over certain responsibilities that you normally are responsible for.
Okay, so when I go to school, you're all my witnesses. He's taking over everything regarding the baby.
Yeah. So in supporting, it's not for me to say, but who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? My first point of reference is to say, what then can I do so that you are not burdened while you are pursuing what you want to pursue?
Yes, because the truth is, at a different time, you might be the one who needs to pursue something, or you travel, and I may need to take on certain roles and responsibilities, so that balance is there.
So it shouldn't be just one aspect of support that on one person benefits.
Yes.
It's at different times. We all should feel that I've been supported. We also feel that in this relationship, not only one person is a beneficiary, because sometimes unhealthy relationships usually are one person benefits more than the other because they feel they are the one who deserves more than the other. But a healthy relationship is where there's mutual support, and that's very important. The other point I can add on is, and also you can add, it's a conversation, is that a healthy relationship also is one where you seek the best interests of the other. That's foundational. And I think as we go on with this conversation, in the future, God allows, we'll talk about this point further. But I think that to seek the best interest of the other is an important aspect of a healthy relationship, because if I exist in the relationship for what I can get.
I'm making notes, just by the way. I'm making notes.
Okay, if I get into the relationship for what I can only benefit myself, and I structure our relationship in a way that I only take from the relationship, and everything is about me as a person, that relationship is not a healthy relationship. So in a healthy relationship, individuals should grow to seek the interests of the other. That's health, because if only one person's interest is being sought and being fulfilled, that relationship is not healthy. And even if it continues to exist, it's not going to really exist and remain a quality relationship. Because I believe that a healthy relationship, individuals should make sure and grow in seeking the interests of the other. That's important. What is it that you like? What is it that I can do to make you feel better? What is it that I can do to make you feel that you are valued and you are respected? What is it that makes you come alive as a person? So in our existence, we should be interested in knowing what really makes us as individuals, or what makes my partner tick and come alive, what makes her as happy, appreciated enough. And I should consistently be reminded and finding ways to make sure that I provide that, because I'm seeking your best interest. I have your best interest at heart. And I think a healthy relationship has those combinations. And others can add, but I think because of time, I decided to narrow on to something that is a bit, that we can relate to. Yes. And that we can reflect on. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Look, the only addition I'm going to add, especially in current day, is, make the time to actually converse. So one of the aspects that you highlighted was good communication. Yeah. But what I've realized in today's age of technology, let me not even say modern technology. Well, it has evolved and it's become more modern than it used to be years back. Is that it is so easy to feel that you have good communication going on, and that you have a good relationship. But a lot of couples spend a lot of time on these gadgets. And so what I want to add is be strategic, around creating time to grow as a couple.
That's right.
And I think that intention to grow as a couple is an indicator of a healthy relationship, because there is an objective to work towards something.
That's right.
You know, it's the same as, you know, the importance of having vision. Because in the absence of vision, you will literally have a dead situation.
That's right.
And therefore, you know, we need to be, I know we've heard it, don't text and drive, don't, you know, actually you want to create room in your marriages, in your relationships, to actually put that phone in the phone bowl and actually get to know each other. Because sometimes it's so easy to assume you know the next person. Meanwhile, as you've been conversing with the person over lunch or dinner, you've actually completed a paper for work, or, you know.
That's right.
Because we can do pretty much everything on our gadgets today. So it's important to be mindful of those little distractions, and to then be intentional as a couple, to building, you know, and this extends to even beyond just man to woman relationship. This extends to how we relate to our siblings, how we relate to our parents. We need to be intentional. The focus of this show, yes, is you know, relationships in that nature. So yes, that's my 2 cents worth. Now, moving on to, and thank you for what you've highlighted. So moving on, let's say we had somebody who, you know, had a struggle, because last week we actually spoke about, you know, being found in the unfortunate situation of a bad relationship or an abusive relationship. How does one move on? How does one recover from, you know, having had, let's say, a terrible relationship?
Okay. It's different. It's also, the question is quite broad.
Yes.
I found in my experience that.
So how do you get over?
Okay, I'll mention some of the ways that you can speak. But I want also to consider those individuals, because sometimes in relationship we find that although you've been existing in the relationship, the relationship has been existing, and you are thinking you are working towards building a better relationship, not knowing that one within the relationship has already moved on, but they just haven't mentioned that they've decided to move on. So when the announcement comes and somebody says, you know, baby, I think, you know, I would like us to break up, and you know, I'm not interested to move forward. I think the first instance is that the one who brings the news that they want a breakup, they're already on an advantage position, because they have a time to process
and arrive at
that decision. So the person that will first of all feel challenged in that situation is the one who's being told that, you know, it's time to end the relationship. Because the other one, the fact that I've taken the courage to come and say, let's go away, it also means that in the process of healing, they're a bit ahead, because they have processed and they have settled in their hearts that, you know, this relationship needs to end. Although then thereafter also they'll get into a journey. So I think that in answering your question, it's important, because sometimes when we're in relationships that are not moving or going anywhere, we get used to the drama and the fights and trying to resolve this and resolve that, and we get accustomed to that, and we believe that that's how a relationship should be. So when the announcement is made of breaking up, it breaks individuals out, because they assume they were working onto something, but they fail actually to think through, to realize that, by the way, this relationship hasn't been all right all along.
For a while, yeah.
So the first place that you really need to analyze what the relationship has been all along, and be honest about it. And if you can't be honest about it, because sometimes we can be too close to the relationship and to the issue, is that seek honest opinion. Let them tell you what their observation has been about the relationship. Let them be honest, because when you see that the relationship hasn't been good all along, you will know that it's also one step to moving ahead. The other aspect that I would encourage people is when the breakup happens and you go separate ways, the thing that normally happens is that individuals get to blame themselves. Maybe I was just not handsome enough or beautiful enough. Maybe I was not a man, a woman enough. So there is this self-condemnation that somehow comes, and that's why they say that's why the reason that's why maybe they say the relationship is broken. So for me, I would first of all encourage people that, you know, the relationship sometimes break, not because people in it were bad people.
No.
It's because they break because they were just wrong for each other.
Okay.
That's important to know.
All right.
Added to that is that when the breakup happens, is that you have to try by all means to safeguard your self-worth. Because if you get to a place where you start blaming yourself and condemning yourself and beating yourself down, and I'm not good enough, I'm just not good enough for a man, I'm not just good enough for a woman, what you're doing is that you are tearing yourself down. And you must remember that in tearing yourself down, chances are along the way there will be another person that is going to come and find and be interested in you. If you have already broken yourself into pieces, it becomes very difficult to move on, because you always blame yourself as to why the relationship is broken. But also what you're going to do is that you're going to take the burden, your brokenness, your mess, into the next person. The other point that I can also add is that in the process of breaking up, is that once you break up, take time to rediscover yourself. Because sometimes when you are in the relationship, sometimes life becomes about that relationship. We invest our time, we invest all the resources that we know, we invest who we are into that relationship. And the relationship also begins to actually shape us. To some extent, if the relationship was not good, is that it actually, while we are in the relationship, sometimes we fail to realize that actually we've been broken all along in the process of the relationship, but we've been on the ground. So sometimes when the relationship breaks up, I think the gift that you can give to yourself is that find time to rediscover yourself again. What is important to you.
So don't just jump into
exactly. What are your values? What is it that you're going to do differently? And in the process is that you also take ownership, because sometimes when relationship break, there's this notion depending on what happened.
More often than not, we blame the other person.
Exactly. But I think that, when you blame the other person, what you are saying, you are giving power to that person.
Oh, really?
It means that you're not in control of your life. It means that in that relationship, you are just being laid anyhow, and you never you just basically existed and you didn't play a part. So taking ownership, actually what it does, that you take part of your power back. And you take ownership to say, what is it that I contributed in this relationship that was not right? That going forward, I should do better. Maybe your contribution was that you saw that this person is not right for you, but you tolerated it. You chose to hold on. You have to take ownership of that. Because if you never chose to hold on to what you knew is not going to work, you could have not end up being in that situation. So taking ownership is really being honest enough to say, what is it that I contributed, to this relationship that made it to be the way it is? Because when you take that ownership, what you're doing is that also you are allowing yourself to heal. You are also gaining wisdom and understanding in that process of yourself. Because as I said last time, relationship is always about who we are. And it's important that in healing and getting back to in the process of breaking up, is that you have to take ownership, and so that you can heal better. You are to the point that in trying to rediscover yourself, also what you're trying to do is that you're not trying to rush into another relationship, because usually when you've been in a relationship for a very long time, you got used to having somebody. We like to bounce back to find somebody else to fill the gap. And in filling that gap, what we normally do is that we just take the baggage, all the issues that we are dealing with, and we just dump them onto the person that we have found.
I don't know what it is, but I think if I remember very clearly, in my varsity days, you used to notice a lot of that, and I'm sure it still happens today, where people are so afraid of being alone. And sometimes, actually not sometimes, the majority of the time, it is so critical that if you've walked out of one relationship, that you just take the time to, you know, to refocus, to get rebuilt before you step into the next one. That, you know, introspect.
That's
so
right.
that you can go into the next relationship whole.
A better person.
Yes.
I think, you know, I said last time that it's important to, loving yourself is about respecting yourself. It's about you knowing knowing your worth. For us who are in Christ, our worth is defined by what Christ has done. I think it's important to realize that. But I think that sometimes we think that the reason sometimes we take long to heal or we bounce back from one relationship to the other is that we haven't learned to be by ourselves and we don't like ourselves. We always think that we can only be of value if we have a person in our own lives to validate us, to affirm and to fill the gap that we are missing. I believe, yes, we were created for companionship.
Yes.
But even in that companionship, individuals should find peace being themselves, even in the context of marriage, because although we are married, we also have time for ourselves as individuals. Yes. That's a healthy way of living.
Yes.
But sometimes people think when people don't have, they haven't grown to learn to be by themselves and enjoy their own company. What happens is that even when they get into the relationship, they suffocate the space they are in. But when they leave the relationship, they want to jump onto another relationship. And in the process, what happens is that they move from one relationship to another relationship, being broken. And in being broken, what is happening is something is being shaped inside that person. These are the individuals at some point in their lives, they get to a place where they say, I don't believe in relationship. I don't believe in women. I don't believe in men. They come up with theories.
Actually, one of the popular ones I hear is I don't believe in marriage.
Exactly, because you never took time to heal as a person from broken relationship. And in terms of when you're coming from a relationship, a broken relationship, and we move quickly to the other, your perspective is already affected.
Yes.
So your judgment as to if the next person is the right person for you or you are the right person for that person is somehow affected.
Yeah.
And if you move from one relationship to the other, just not getting time to heal and learn, it affects how you then the outcome of yourself and how you view relationship, how you view marriage. Sometimes that's why you find that people end up sleeping around. They decide they're not going to be in any serious relationship. Yeah. What they're going to do is that they just don't mind just having sex partners. So no strings attached, just sex.
They lack commitment.
Exactly, just sex, and after sex, we are done. The issue is that they are running away from issues that are inside.
Dealing with.
Exactly. Okay. And that's not a healthy way of living. So those are some of the ways that I think that one can deal with or can assist in people moving on.
All right.
From one relationship to the other or heal.
So just a reminder to our audience that this is a session that is applicable to both single people as well as married people.
Yes.
We are just trying to see how what we've learned and what you know and what you've learned can collectively bring value to all of us in terms of unpacking relationships. Now we've spoken a lot, and what's quite pertinent is the fact that we need to learn as individuals to face ourselves,
exactly,
to introspect and to deal with ourselves.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is our next question.
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah.
I mean, trust is such a fundamental part of relationship. Yet so many of us struggle. How can we build trust? It's
a very, I would say, I'll speak from my coaching point of view before we go further into the question. Trust is one of the values that individuals, whether they are in the relationship or they're not in the relationship, it's one of the values I believe that individuals first of all should embrace.
Yeah.
So at a personal level, you should be able to embrace trust. What it means that also at a personal level, you should be growing in being trustworthy.
Okay.
So whether you are in the relationship or you're not, whether you are in the relationship or not, you should embrace being a trustworthy person. So in other words, seek to be honest, seek to be transparent, seek to be accountable as a person, because this is what happens. You can go into the relationship and the relationship that you are in demands trust. If you haven't embraced
every relationship,
exactly, if you haven't embraced being trustworthy or trust as one of the important values, you're going to run away. A person's going to run away because they are thinking like, oh, my partner is just demanding too much. Because on the other side of their own lives, they have never embraced trust. So I think that, first of all, before we talk in the context of marriage, individuals at a personal level, we should embrace being trustworthy.
Okay.
And embrace trust as one of the important values. So when we get into the relationship, we are able to contribute or grow in the trust level, because when you are by yourself, no one is questioning you, no one is asking you, but you still embrace some level of trustworthiness. When you get into the relationship, it's somehow intensified because the marriage institution or relationship setup demands more of trust, because I believe that trust is one of the glue, that it's a glue that holds a relationship together. Or you can call it a pillar that supports the relationship. Without trust, a relationship cannot stand. So I think that, first of all, at a personal level, we embrace trust. Added to that, when we also get into, I'm trying to summarize in my thought. When you get into the relationship, apart from getting trust as something that you take into the relationship, is that the relationship before you also start must be founded on trust.
Okay.
In other words, we're living in a time where people are generally selfish, right? They see a guy, they see a woman, and there's something that they like from that person, that they think that when they get into that relationship, they can get that.
Yes.
So first of all, the foundation is not founded on trust already. No. One is getting into the relationship, and they have something that they are focusing on, that they want to get from that relationship. So when that person gets into the relationship, to ask trust from that person is totally impossible, because the very entry into the relationship is founded on untruthfulness. So it becomes very difficult to actually start working on trust, because why should we work on trust when somebody got into the relationship
with the wrong motive?
There's already deception already there. So the way you get into the relationship is important.
Yes.
The way you are at a personal level is also very important, because if you haven't embraced trust, it's not going to work when you get into the relationship. So some of the point that I can share is, be willing to share information. So in other ways, there has to be some level of transparency in the relationship. That also adds to building trust. You also need to deal with the past, because sometimes there is unhealthy demand in the relationship for transparency, because maybe somebody is coming from a relationship where they were heartbroken. So they get into this relationship thinking that this person is like the previous person. So there's this way of trying to look for information to see if this person is cheating, if this person is lying, if if what they said is true, they are what they are. And you find that what it does, when the other person finds out that they're being investigated that much, it undermines trust. Remember, you are seeking more information to build trust. If the other person feels that you don't trust them, it also undermines the trust. So it's something of a balance. The other thing that you can do to build trust is when we say communication or share information, we are also saying being vulnerable and being open. Sometimes as individuals, we at a personal level, maybe it's at work, something goes wrong that you never anticipated is going to go wrong, and you think that if you tell your partner, they are going to look at you in a certain way, they are going to fight you or of that sort. Then what happens is that you withhold the information. When the partner finds out the truth, the very thing that you are trying to protect them begins to erode the trust that you're trying to build. I would say is that create an environment in which trust can grow.
Yes.
I'll give an example.
Okay.
We're living in a time where people, not everybody, some people have password to their phones, for instance.
Yes.
They have password to their phones, password to their Facebook accounts,
Yes.
and the partner doesn't know about that.
No.
You know, to open the phone, you always have to go, baby. What's your password? And if I know some couples, it's illegal to touch your partner's phone. What you're doing there is that you are cultivating an environment for mistrust.
Yes. For suspicion to grow.
Exactly. So if you want to build trust, create an environment where you can dispel issues that actually can breed lack of trust in the relationship.
Yes.
If you're, passwords, let your partner have access to passwords. I mean, there are couples.
Not even just passwords.
Yeah.
So, say for instance, you're on the phone right now, and I come behind you,
Exactly.
and you suddenly lock your screen.
Yes.
So, such behavior
Exactly.
as well, just
plant seeds. What is that you are hiding?
Yes. Why you hiding?
And it goes back to,
sorry. Taking a phone call and then literally leaving to go take it in another
somewhere
room.
else.
Yes.
All that you are not cultivating the environment in which trust can be built. So it's about creating an environment where there's open communication. Suspicious activities are eroded in the relationship when you are when you go that way.
Yeah.
The other I've seen people people ask questions that, is it okay for me to be to be friends with my partner on social media? I'm like, how? Why is it
friends?
Exactly? It's things like that, because if I'm not your friend on Facebook and on Instagram and all the platforms where I'm on, then who am I talking to? Why am I hiding? So it's things like that. So if you want to build trust, you have to be willing to cultivate and create an environment in which trust can grow. Anything that is suspicious, that can sow seeds of doubt, you work towards eliminating those. And that's what I say, that trust starts at a personal level. Because if at a personal level, I'm on Facebook or Instagram, on all these social media, I engage with certain things that if my partner is aware of those things, they are not going to be up with me. It means that it's not even about my partner. I've already betrayed my own trust. I already betrayed my own integrity. So it all comes back to you as a person. So those are some of the ways that I think that I've said a lot, but if the viewers are listening, I hope you got my point. So create an environment in which
trust can grow. I'm hearing you, and I'm deep in thought about how it becomes so important, because in life we want to do well in a lot that we engage in a lot that we put our hands to or invest in. So we want our relationships to be successful, and here are tools on ensuring that our relationships are that successful. And trust is one of those virtues or values that has the potential to affect other areas of our lives.
That's right.
And therefore, if you know there's trust between us, there's a lot I can just peacefully trust you about, even when it comes to my making certain personal decisions career-wise. Because I've learned that I can trust you, I can trust you with guidance and advice on an area. But if trust is shattered between us, I might even withhold sharing something in a different part of my life.
But also then what happens is the same cycle repeats, because if then I discover that you are hiding something, it goes again, then we keep on breaking the very foundation
of what we're trying to build.
And then added to that, before you go further, maybe another level to trust, I get this question as well around trust. How do you build trust when your partner has cheated on you as a person, or your partner has done something that it may not be really cheating, but just something that
has broken your trust?
Exactly. How do you ensure that again that trust is built? I think in a setup where there's been deception, deception that's occurred and has brought trust issues. I always encourage that the offender, the person who has done something wrong, they shouldn't first of all become too defensive about their acts. For instance, if your partner finds out that you cheated, and then they found that through your phone, you can't all of a sudden change the password and don't tell your partner.
No, or your first argument cannot be, "What were you doing in my phone?"
That's another excuse. So when that has happened, what you do is that going forward, if you're interested in building that relationship and gaining the trust, it means that you have to go extra mile in making sure that you buy back the trust that you used to have. So any suspicious activities, anything that you think that your wife or your husband will be, will remain in doubt, that you try to go extra mile. In fact, you have to over communicate.
Yes.
And try to be over transparent.
Yes.
In your endeavors, so that your partner knows that what you have done, you have acknowledged that it's wrong, and that you are willing to change. Yes. And I hope that in the process you also extend help. But in the process you try to be more transparent, so that, because this is what happens, if trust has been broken, the seed still remains in the person that has been deceived, to say that, has this person really changed? Has this person really gone back to, where can I trust them again?
Yes.
So in making sure that you dispel all that,
yes,
going forward, make sure that you become more transparent, more open. You even if your partner comes and try to find more information from you, I know most of the time when people find themselves in that situation, they feel that their privacy is being invaded and not being respected. I think that when you have offended your partner in the area of trust, you cannot let them trust you again by protecting yourself.
That's right.
So it means that in the process of healing and getting back to the place where trust is restored, you have to allow your partner to be in your space and invade your privacy, because that will help them get to a place where they can heal, but also it will help you, ensure that you have nothing really to protect going forward.
And I think it's going back to being vulnerable as well, like we discussed in the other point, is you have to accept that you're going to have to be vulnerable, because you were the offender. However, at the same time, because I do know this is a reality for many couples out there, that they've gone through something similar, where trust has been broken, either through extramarital affair, or if it's a couple that are still walking a journey to courtship. Let's say you found out about somebody, although I'm tempted to say in that situation, you prayerfully make this decision, but it happens that trust can be broken. It can be broken even in terms of something big that you were working towards, or something that's been broken. So now we're outside extramarital affairs, but another area in your lives where trust has been broken and you are struggling to move forward. So that vulnerability is important on the offender side, and that proactiveness to almost overcompensate, but not in a manner to further deceive. It's really to try and be genuine, from a genuine place,
point of view,
to try and rebuild that trust. The offended trade graciously as well, because I think sometimes the offended party can also maximize the situation to try and say, let me teach this guy or lady a lesson. For having done this to me. It becomes important to understand that you're going to have to trade carefully, rebuild the foundation, and I believe in relationships where something has gone wrong and both parties have decided they want to work on things, God's grace is available to both of you, the offender and the offended, to rebuild and get restored. I believe God is a God who restores. And if you just avail yourselves and open yourselves and yield yourselves, He truly can get you through.
And I think you raised a very valid point around, if you're the one who has been offended, what I've seen in the line of work that I've done with different couples is that, because remember, in building trust, we want transparency, we want open communication, we want our partner to be vulnerable as well. So in vulnerability, also there's a room to build, the trust, because then one can open up, because they are ready to strip themselves of whatever has been going on. But what I've seen is that if you are the one who has been offended, how you respond to the offense is also going to determine if going forward your partner will feel safe to open up. How you deal with them in that process. So the opportunity when there's something, there is issue of trust, trust is broken in the relationship and somebody has offended. The opportunity of building a relationship that is stronger and better actually is on both sides. To the offender, it's how you respond to the offense. That also is going to show your partner to say, wow, I think people are afraid of being taken advantage of. I think that it's not usually the case that when you respond in a way that is mature, that is understanding, not that you tolerate what happened, but it is a way that you go about responding to the issue. What it does, it also affect the other person to say, you know what, I think I need to work on my life. And also going forward, if that individual is considering certain things in their lives, they are going to open up, because part of the issue in relationship, and there's so many things coming in my head, is that we get married or we get into the relationship, we have secret shame.
Okay, I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you.
There are certain things that have happened to us that we don't want our partner to know about. But what they do is that those things, they replay themselves in our behavior. And it's how we deal with one another in the process of building trust that is going to allow, if the other person will say, you know what, I can no longer hold on to my shame, because they say that the power of shame is in its secrecy. Because when you hold on to your shame and you keep it, you also remain in bondage. When you open up, it loses its power. But in opening up, also what it does, that the trust that we are looking for begins to start establishing. We start to establish that trust going forward. You know what?
You raise a very valid point, because if I look at our relationship and our journey from when we started courting and to where we are, there were certain values we chose to uphold when we courted that. And we pray to God to help us through, and God's grace is truly sufficient. And there've been times that I look back on that, and that encourages me in our journey, because we're growing, we're still growing in our relationship.
And we'll never be perfect.
That's precisely. And I look back on how we got through that season, how we got through this, and I know we'll definitely grow from strength to strength. And now I've lost my train of thought.
No, it's okay.
I was trying to make a point.
No, I think you will make a point. But while you are trying to find your thoughts, for me, what I'm getting from what you are saying is that you cannot build trust when you are in the relationship already. The foundation upon which the relationship starts is an important one, because so if you start dating and relating, and then you get married, what is going to determine the level of trust in your marriage is based on the journey that you walked in your courtship. If there was things that undermine the trust and never create the environment for trust to grow, when you get married, that also is going to be brought into the marriage, like what you're saying. You look back at some of the things that God helped us through, and our trust is strengthened. The opposite of that would have been if certain things went in a bad way, along certain things that we trusted God for. What would have meant that when we are in the marriage, there should be, why should you trust, or why should I trust now? When the beginning, there was a lot of mistrust. There were a number of things that happened that never, embraced and encouraged to trust one another.
So I've finally remembered.
Okay, great.
Thank you. So I remember, and I'm not going to disclose the detail, because it's really the lesson and the principle behind it. I remember, I think very early in our marriage, I remember sharing with a girlfriend that I had said something to you, and I remember her reaction was, "But why are you saying that to him?" And I remember thinking, why her reaction? This is my husband. Of course, my husband and I speak about everything.
Yeah.
And I sensed she was trying to say, no, there's certain conversations you can have with him, and there's certain conversations you shouldn't have with him because you might, you might instigate, things. And I thought to myself, we shouldn't have to choose to withhold certain information in relationships.
That's right.
Because then why have we made the decision to build a life together?
Because I think I'm getting a thought, when the more information that you hold from the relationship, the more you take away from what the relationship should be like in a good way. So that when you hold information, what you are doing is that you are actually disadvantaging in trying to build a healthy relationship.
Yes. But I think what it stemmed from a place of fear. That there's so many people in relationships, they think thoughts, and probably even respond mentally to their partners, but they don't have the confidence to actually initiate a conversation around those topics out of fear, and you need to question that, because here you are saying you're committed to walking this journey with this person. You should not have anything that you're feeling reserved about. Like he said, shame tends to build up, or the power of shame lies in its secrecy. And you want to really curb that and be able to open up. And, I don't know if this relates to our last question, if we have enough time to tap into it.
We still do.
So basically, my last question for this evening, before we look at any questions that you have or comments that you have, is how to save a relationship, which we've somewhat touched on. But yes.
I always, first of all, you have to ask yourself if the relationship is worth saving.
Okay, that sounds harsh.
Yeah, but it's the truth.
Yes.
Because I think this is what happens. When we are in the relationship, I said earlier on, that sometimes in relationship we get used to the drama. And there are people who believe that, relationships have to have so much drama, relationships have to have so much pain, and they feel that it's okay that way. So when the relationship ends, they still want to hold on because they've gotten used to the drama, and they don't want to let go of the relationship, and they don't want to let go of the drama. So I think that you determine if the relationship is worth saving.
Yes.
It's important. I hope our internet is fine. Let us know if we are still on. Yeah, our internet is there. But anyway, so I think it's determine if the relationship is worth saving.
Yes.
When we go back to the first question, to say assess what has always been in this relationship. Is something worth saving? This is what I said. That sometimes greater damage is done in holding on to something that has already been lost. Something is gone, but we want to hold on as if it's still alive. And in the process of holding on, what we're doing, we are damaging ourselves. We are also taking time, the time that we should be looking for solutions to recover. We are spending much time in holding on to that. On the other hand, there are genuine relationships also that want to be saved. I think that if the relationship needs to be saved, the individuals in the relationship should see value that the relationship needs to be saved.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be one person looking for means to save the relationship.
Yes.
Both couples should say, you know what, I think let's work together and find a way of saving this relationship. The other way would be, of course, the common one, seeking counseling, seeking external help. That also helps in ensuring that the relationship is saved.
Yes.
So I would say, judge if the relationship deserves to be saved. The other one would be both you as individuals should come to an agreement that we need to find ways of resolving this relationship. And my last point around this conversation that I want to recommend, in the process of trying to resolve and save the marriage or the relationship, individuals should also seek separate counseling.
Okay, seek help separately and together.
Yes, because in seeking separate counseling, you're trying to gain perspective without your judgment being affected by the voice of the other.
Okay.
You want to see gain a clarity and understanding by yourself with the help of a therapist or a counselor or a psychologist, or a pastor of some sort. Because in seeking separate counseling as an individual, it helps you come to terms with certain things. It helps you gain perspective. Say, okay, when we go back, this has been my issues, and these are the issues I'm going to work on. Also, it helps. I'll give, in some of my coaching materials, I was reading one testimony of a coach. It says there was a wife that fought a lot for the marriage to be restored. The husband never cared. So they sought counseling together. The husband came to terms. He realized he's wrong. When in the process of that coaching session, the wife also had one-on-one personal coaching. But in those one-on-one personal coaching, the coach realized that the wife had low self-esteem. So in the coaching, the mitigation an intervention were to build her self-esteem, so that she can gain her self-worth. When the process of counseling finished, she came to the realization to say she doesn't need the relationship. So you have a husband now who has woken up to the realization to say he wants the wife back. You have a wife also who has gained self-worth, and she has looked back how the journey has been, and she has realized that no, actually the issue has been me. I've never valued myself as a person, and that's why I've lived in this state of the relationship. And because of what I've come to see and understand myself, I can no longer go back.
I see.
So those are the dynamics. So
Okay. Well, that's all we have time for. We really don't want to be able to end today's session without having a look at some of your questions that you have.
So I'll go while you're checking.
I'm just going to summarize so far what we've covered, and basically, in terms of looking at what makes a healthy relationship, it's one where we have good communication, one where we have mutual respect, mutual support. And what I liked about this point was how Happy here brought it to today's context, that as African men, they're often expectant of support from us women, but mutual support could literally be that in a season that your wife needs to go and do her studies, you come up and help out with chores in the house, for instance. A healthy relationship is where we seek the interests of one another. We then moved on to a question around how can people who've been in abusive relationships or in a relationship gone wrong, how can they get over that? And what we said was they need to invest time in healing first, and honestly introspect on what was their contribution in the going wrong within that relationship. Because until you face what you contributed, you are unable to move on in a healthy manner in your next relationship. We then asked, how do we build trust in a relationship? We said it's important at a personal level to embrace trustworthiness in order for you to be able to build on trust. Be transparent, be vulnerable, create an enabling environment for trust to grow. And we touched on the popular phone passwords, locking your screen when the other person comes through, and that it's important to not engage in such behavior if we're wanting to build trust in our relationships. How can we save our relationships? It's important that the offender not be defensive. That's also applicable when looking at the trust issue as well. Importantly though, we need to ask ourselves, is this relationship worth saving? And after asking that question, we need to both find value in having the relationship be saved and seek the right counsel, the right psychological help. If it's psychological counseling that you need, if it's spiritual counseling that you need, get the right help. And sometimes that might require getting individual. Actually, we want to encourage that you get both the individual help as well as a couple. So that's in summary what we've discussed today.
Thank you. That's a wonderful summary.
Do we have any questions from online?
I'm checking for questions. Let me try to check on your phone.
Sure. At this point, we're really just asking that you pose any questions that you may have. Remember, doesn't matter how burning the question is, please pose it. We won't call your name out actually. Because we do understand that some questions can be sensitive. So please go ahead, pose your question, and Yes, we will do our best to respond to it. We are 3 minutes over time. Let's see if we can take
some questions.
A few questions. And
your contribution also is of value. So if I have something to say, you can still say. Okay, it's the phone is loading. Just bear with us.
Technology.
We just any question?
Any questions?
Okay, just comments. Thank you for today's session from Tama, Karen. Such a good session. Thank you. Thank you so much for also joining us.
Yes.
There's something actually I wanted to say in closing. I've actually lost my train of thoughts. Yeah. But anyway, what I wanted to say, if you come across the video later, you can inbox us. We are also encouraging you, to those of you who have been watching, please invite as many people as possible to our next session on Tuesday. By God's grace, we're looking forward to the next session. But feel free to contact us. We are one of the pastors at Caris Church, that is based in the Sandton area in Johannesburg. If you need to contact us, you need to know more about us as a ministry and what we are all about, feel free also to do that. Yeah, otherwise I'm
going to ask you to pray.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Shall we just pray? Father, thank you for this evening. I thank you for each and every person that is present and that was watching today,
yes,
and that
Lord.
will watch later, mighty God.
Yes,
I pray that you touch them. I pray that you bless them.
Yes.
I bless them. I pray that you restore their relationship, mighty God.
In Jesus'
Those
name.
that need healing, I pray that you heal them,
yes, King of Glory.
From their past hurt and past pain, Almighty God, in the
yes,
name of
Lord.
Jesus. Those that have given up on love, I pray let them not give up on love, mighty God, but
yes,
inspire
Lord.
them, Almighty God, to be expectant of Father,
yes,
that you are able to bring somebody across their path, and
yes,
let them be open, Almighty God, to your work and to your doing, mighty God,
yes, Lord.
in the name of Jesus. So to those who are looking, Father, I pray that you provide.
Yes,
to those who have
God.
marriages already, I pray in the name of Jesus you strengthen those marriages in the name of Jesus.
God.
I give you glory. Those that are just going through hard time in their relationships, oh Father, I pray that through this series and through other information that will come across, oh Father,
yes,
that
Lord.
you meet them at the point of their needs and restore their relationships, Almighty God. In the name of Jesus. We thank you and we honor you, mighty God.
Yes, Lord.
In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen.
Amen.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time, and we are so grateful that you took your time to come and listen to us.
Thank you for allowing us in your homes.
Yes, so may God just richly bless you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and have a good evening and a good rest of the week. Goodbye.